and Mac full screen. There we are. All right, chat, how's it going? Good evening. Little short one since I didn't get to do the one earlier in the day that I wanted to do because the landscapers showed up and it was so loud right outside of this window here that it just was not happening. Let's see, I told Discord, I sent out the notification with Twitch by going live. I've not sent it out anywhere else. Let's do that real quick. Let's go over here. How is your night going, Mac?
Going okay.
Maybe
I've adjusted the camera so that I'm not in the edge of the camera box.
Yes. Let's get stuff up and running here. All right. So we want to hit the old makeup post. Oh, okay. Yeah. Good times.
Mm-hmm.
What's on your mind? Live now with Mac for a short Friday night stream. All right, copy that out. Send it over there. Over here, let's do the card. So many little places to do it, and the good tools that used to do this all en masse really kind of suck these days.
Very unfortunate.
I mean, in the end, that's mostly like Twitter's fault. Like Elon's when he fucked up the API
Shocking.
and all that. All right, let's get back over to the streaming screen. Okay, everyone, how's it going? And yes, first. Oh, it has been a very busy week for me. Few meetings, few hospital visits, but the standard hospital visits, the tests, the ones that are saying whether I'm good or not, which I do feel good. So, like, you know, let's hope all these results come back well. They, I think most of the results I'm not going to have for another week or two. Hello, mom of Kurt. How's it going, Kurt's mom? So, yeah, everybody. Week's been going all right. You know, I wanted to do a stream today where I was going to do some programming, and because I want to start working on the project I described, you know, weeks ago, and I finally feel like up to it. And right when I got completely set up, the landscapers showed up and went nuts outside the window. So like, I waited. I was like, maybe, you know, they'll stop half an hour, 2 hours go by, and I gave up. You know, but it was just hours of just waiting for them to be done. Now they did great work. Like, you know, I doubt any of them are going to see this, but they did do great work. So like, I'm not complaining about any of that. It's just, yeah, it got in the way. So I think sometime this weekend, I don't know, maybe tomorrow late afternoon, Sunday night, something like that, I'll do that first programming stream. And that should be fun.
Yeah.
We, of course, have to talk about the fact, and I don't even know if Mac knows this one yet, but the Antisocial Network came out today.
Oh.
So I'm going to do the old Mac and me in a box move here. And then we are going to get this the right size for the screen, which is about there. Maybe it could go over like so. That'll work, whatever. Indeed. Yeah. So it was a good documentary, I think. I'm happy with things. Sound. What's wrong with sound? Oh no, someone in chat is saying sound. I'm not playing the documentary. If you're hearing sound, something's wrong. Okay. You're killing me in chat over here. All right. So I think the doc is good. You know, there's a lot of good points in it. You know, Jeremy Hammond being in it was awesome. I'm really glad he came through on that one. The odd part about, especially like the whole middle section of the documentary, is there's a lot of back and forth through a time period where it's me and then someone who really hates me is the other person. and we're just going back and forth, where we're not talking, but they're showing like a clip of me or a soundbite of me, and then a soundbite of him, and it's just back and forth. And I thought that was hilarious. You know, I just thought that was funny. I mean, I think, you know, I have lots of opinions there, but I think it was hilarious doing that. I think there was a little bit of on purpose there too. You know, the people behind the documentary seemed to get it, like just the general nature of all of this. And, you know, by the end, they weren't asking any dumb questions. They weren't, you know, calling everyone members and asking to talk to the leader. You know, there was none of that crap. They really did seem to get it. I think they tell a good story arc. It's got, you know, its sections. It's got its early, it's got its middle, you know, it's got the 3 parts, right? The ending is, of course, here's, you know, Q and all the other stuff that we built up over the past being used to build out the alt-right, to build out Trump's support base, to start spreading all the conspiracies, which were, I mean, all lies. And so you get to watch. So they're screwing with people on the internet a little. And they start with talking about like the otaku stuff and like 2chan. Mm-hmm. They go into Moot and 4chan. They go all the way up into 8chan. Like they talk about the whole thing. You know, for whatever you think of the founder of 8chan, their good old Hot Wheels, Frederick Brennan, his part in the documentary is well spoken. He tells, you know, in his various stories what I believe to be the truth. I do believe, of course, he fostered a lot of very bad things and has a lot to repay the world for. But I also believe that about myself. So, you know, there we are on that. I think everyone who likes the subject, who likes to kind of see all of this and might want even some more insight into where all this stuff happened and, you know, who was in it all and what people did. And to see Kurt, honestly, I mean, like, there's some moments there where he's just looking at the camera and it looks like he was, you know, supposed to be on camera like his whole life. I know there's a lot of people in the community who have their opinions on Kurt, and I just think if they watched it, they would enjoy his parts. So yeah, go watch the thing. It's fun. And that's, I mean, unless anyone has questions about that whole thing, yeah, balls in, indeed. So the worst thing to ever happen to the East Coast happened today as the earthquake shattered everything.
Yes. According
to at least the amount of tweets I saw about it. You know, okay, so on anything I thought was missing, they transitioned relatively quickly from Chanology and kind of getting our footing. Miss you too, Mackie. But they transitioned pretty quickly from that into bigger political events without the middle part there, which was in between, which was us figuring out we could do political stuff with things like Operation Titstorm and in those very first ones where we specifically and targeted, like, went against a government, right? And I understand time constraints. It's already an hour and a half. So, like, I'm not complaining about that, but it would have been neat to see how in this storytelling method and in their design and everything, it would have been really cool to see how they told that part of the story. After watching it, I mean, I don't know about the others who have already actually watched the doc, but after watching it, the first actual comment I sent back to the documentarians, the whole team, was that they needed to, you know, tell the person who did the color grading and tone mapping and all of that work to really set the vibe of, like, the look and feel of it. That person did a fucking amazing job. The colors in this thing are just amazing. The way it's done, it's beautiful looking. The art too and everything else, but I don't know. I'm a nerd for, like, good color grading and good consistency and all that fun stuff. You know, it's my favorite part about using DaVinci Resolve and why I think it's the best of the editors out there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the only thing I really thought was missing, because they were able to fit a lot in there, was that jump from we did Chanology to suddenly, you know, we're doing massive political things. Like, there's a middle section there where we figured out we could do political things. And maybe it would have been too clumsy to tell that one correctly. Maybe it was just time constraints. I mean, getting an hour and a half doc out that was filmed a lot before and during the pandemic through Netflix, which was cutting things left and right. It's a miracle they got this thing to the finish line, and not due to them, just due to the nature of the industry right now. They got what they could out there, and I think it's really good. I think people should watch it. But we can go back to this. I was asked a few times today if I felt it or not, and I did. I'm on the second story of an older house. It's gotten some renovation, but it's an older house. And so it was really weird because it wasn't that strong where we are, right? I mean, I'm north of Boston, so like we barely got a little bit of it. But when it happened, the first thing I did was stand up and look outside because we've had a few weeks of really bad wind and storm. And I don't know how it was.
Especially like the last couple of days.
Right, the last couple of days of a really strong wind. And so the house does shake when there's huge gusts. So I thought maybe, wind. I look out the window and the trees are not moving. And I'm like, earthquake. I remember this from my time in California.
Yeah, I legitimately did not notice it. I probably just chalked it up to the wind and didn't even look because the room I was in had curtains. So I had to draw the curtains aside to look.
I mean, one of the things is I'm sitting here on this chair and you can see how this thing moves. I have upgraded the casters on the bottom of this chair and my feet are cross-legged in it, so I'm not touching the ground. And so my chair started doing this. And the house wasn't even really moving much or anything, but the casters on the wheels on this chair are just stupid. I give it a little bit of force and I'm in the other room while still sitting in the thing. And so the chair started actually rolling back and forth. And that's when I was like, okay, no, something's going on. But at first I just thought it was the wind. Yes. But now, of course, everyone's like, does it mean the big one is coming? And I love the clickbaitiness of this title because the big point here is there's literally no way. It's impossible to forecast when the big one will come.
Yeah.
But that title just, gets us there. I mean, I don't know what it was like for, people actually sitting there right, on Long Island or, wherever. But I know they were complaining. But I remember being out in California and people saying, if you complain for anything lower than a 6, what are you even doing living here?
Yeah, the difference is that since there's actually active faults there and in California, they build the buildings to deal with earthquakes, whereas New York is not really built with the idea that they'll be having earthquakes. And
also, the buildings that are still standing in California are the ones that survive earthquakes. So, so you can feel pretty good about them, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I haven't felt an earthquake in a long time. And at first I'm like, there's no way that was in Boston. And then I go straight to Twitter and everyone's like, I'm on Long Island and there was just a bigger, and they're all going nuts over it. What's the next thing here? Let's talk, let's show this. This was funny to me. Oh, look at that. I just moved everything around. I'm a professional. Sick Codes posted this one and I thought it was just awesome. Standard, POS system. Oh, look at that. It's Windows 10. And gesture controls are on, obviously, because that's how you interact with the damn menu.
Right.
So try this at home, folks. And by that, I mean just, anywhere you run into a machine like this, this works on quite a lot of them. So have fun with that. It's hilarious.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I like that one. One of the interesting things to come out of all the stuff in Europe to do with Apple having to open up the App Store is that a lot of people wanted some kind of secondary App Store so they could do things that aren't allowed in the regular App Store, like emulators for older game systems. And so the first few App Stores that were going to go live were going to be ones just packed with emulators, right? And there's already ones being built. There's ones done. There's ones that have already existed that you could use on jailbroken phones. And they're just full of all the emulators that'll work on iOS. Well, Apple's response to that was to allow emulators back into the App Store in hopes of keeping you from installing one of those alternate ones. The rules are pretty clear that they cannot ship with, any pirated games or anything else. And if they have a built-in download mechanism, it's supposed to only deliver, allowed content that doesn't violate any local laws. But I'm sure there will be ways to transfer games to them, just like you can transfer video files or songs into apps using, iTunes or anything else. So one of their answers to people trying to do the App Store thing is we're just going to start allowing the stuff that we weren't allowing before. I don't know if this means they've had conversations with people like Nintendo who were pretty, loud about this one, or if they just said, fuck it, here we go. But it'll be nice to have good actual emulators on the damn phone. It's powerful enough. I mean, my iPhone can emulate the Dreamcast just fine. It'll be really interesting to see what other ones they come up with here.
Yeah.
If we want to talk about the P. Diddy stuff, which I guess we can bring up, I just want to bring up a very specific thing. Because I did tweet about it, and there was an image. And then a few people, decided to do the same thing and totally stole my tweet, and I'm not mad at them. But it was mine. Where is this thing? Somewhere down here. Holy crap. Oh, yeah. Just for the people who didn't pay attention to my Twitter on this one, Mallrats is the best Easter movie. Period. Best Easter movie. Somewhere down here. Wow, was the Diddy stuff that long ago? Holy crap. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So, my response was, I was not expecting the cast of Get Him to the Greek to somehow get worse. And Elizabeth Moss isn't even in this picture, which she totally could have been, being a Scientologist who loves to recruit for them. But I mean, look at this. Russell Brand, P. Diddy, and I use this image because it's the only one of their promotional images that was actually a movie poster that also had P. Diddy. There were a lot of screenshot ones and things used in reviews and, and all that by critics and everything that had him in the shot. But this was one of their posters and promotionals they used. And of course, we all, got to see all the fun stuff that Jonah Hill was doing to his girlfriend at the time, last year? You add in the Scientologist to this one, and this whole cast is just great.
Oh, yeah.
That is not to, just make a joke out of, what P. Diddy might have done. But just today, his son was hit with charges.
Something about that?
Yeah, someone filed a sexual assault suit against his son, and he is listed as also co in it somehow.
If the thing I saw was correct, I think it was that it was on his yacht or something.
Absolutely crazy. Is this that thing where you're so rich you think you're untouchable? Is it the thing where he was just a bad guy the whole time? Is it that thing that some movies that have rich people in them like to show us, where the rich person gets so bored with life because nothing's entertaining anymore that they start doing shit like this? What version of this is it? According to 50 Cent, he's always been this piece of shit. So if you've been watching any of 50 Cent's tweets and Instagrams about this, he has been just throwing shade the whole time. I mean, he's also been doing that for a decade against P. Diddy. But lately it's been right about all this, and it's been fucking hilarious. Yeah, it very well could be all of the above too. All of those things in one, right?
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever seen this promote button on Twitter. I'm not a fan of that, and I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say about it. I mean, we all know what he's accused of. We know how he's accused of it. I don't think anyone thinks he's innocent. I mean, right? The whole thing where the private plane got sent off with whatever was on it, out of country, the second all this goes down, definitely doesn't speak to innocence.
No.
Yes, we do need Diddy Finger. I agree with this one. I mean, we need a lot of memes because, a lot of times that helps people to laugh about a subject. It gets them capable of understanding the subject better, allows people who feel like they have to avoid intaking some of the media to at least get a feel for what's going on. And so it's, it's not the worst thing to have that going on. Yeah. Yay, that, huh? What do we got up next? What did I pull out here? Oh, yeah. Reddit's, notification system sucks. Its recommendation system sucks. Its everything
Sure
sucks.
Yeah.
But this was the recommendation I got this morning, which was the recommended subreddit of Christianity. For some reason, it believed this would be a place that I would be welcome. I think if I went in there, I would be banned and banned very quickly. I don't know that they have much data on me, though, to like go off of, which is part of their problem, I would assume, as I have a very, very old Reddit account with almost no posts or comments. And I think that really confuses their engine. I mean, it has to, right? Is it just that? Yeah, no, that one's definitely not me. Oh, I'm just GreggHoush, that's right. So who is this motherfucker? Someone squatted my name 6 years ago. Who was mad at me 6 years ago, really mad at me? The person who I went back and forth a whole lot with in a documentary that came out today, posted most of the shit he posted against me 6 and 7 years ago. Huh. Timing. Yeah, but if we look down at this, the 17-year club, but with only 4,000 karma. I don't know how this 14,000 karma came up. I only had like 4,000 comment karma like a year ago. I made a mistake and I interacted with someone, I think. It's horrible. I feel really bad about it. But yeah, having this down this low with the 17-year club, and only somehow having this few trophies with a 17-year-old account, this is why they have no earthly idea what the hell to recommend me. I get it. With that amount of information, I couldn't recommend anything, right? But like, then if you have nothing, why is your default to shove Christianity on me?
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like the main demographic of Reddit. It's sort of subreddit.
I miss Apollo as much as everyone, but I will say I still haven't moved back to the main official Reddit app. I moved over to an app called Multitab Reddit, with a space there, Multitab space Reddit. It's nowhere near as good as Apollo. Nothing ever will be, but it is still far better than the main app, and it allows you to I have popular as my main now instead of just home, but you know how horrible popular is and full of junk. It allows you to filter out subreddits and users in this giant filter list you can build to never appear. So you can then actually view popular and hot and new again with all of the stuff you don't like removed. And it does a good job of it. And it's a tab-based interface and all this other cool stuff. So it's no Apollo, but it's still better than the official app. Ugh. And the developers of this one are responsive. They didn't have the filter for filtering out subreddits from showing up in main lists like popular until I downloaded the app and said, why doesn't it have this? And went into their subreddit, asked for it. And it was 2 days later that the feature was there. And it was complete and worked and didn't bug out on me at all in that quick.
Okay.
So thank you, those guys. Or girls or whatever they want to be. I don't know. I still a lot of times use the the royal guys,
Yeah.
If anyone's ever seen that meme with Zangief who the friend is now dressed as a woman, and then he says, so you is not guy, but you is still one of guys. I feel guys can be used that way, and I hope I don't ever offend anyone when I use it that way. Whew. Yeah, so I did not join the subreddit, of course, because what am I going to do there but just piss people off by posting all the horrible things the Bible says? That thing is a very pornographic book.
Indeed.
Then Media Matters posted an interesting one today about good old Tim Pool. And right-wing YouTuber Tim Pool has raised $1.3 million from Super Chats. Just tracking his Super Chats, they were able to track that much money. And including this fun quote where Tim Pool laughed and said, "People are just giving us money," while Alex Jones was the guest. And Alex Jones replied, "That's how it works, Tim." Because they were just getting flooded with Super Chats. I think they made like $25,000 in Super Chats on that one. So, yeah. So this just tracks some of the money. And there's a lot of more fun work going on for good old Tim Pool there. So we should see stuff maybe coming out of some comptrollers. Interesting angle,
Yeah. It is depressing how lucrative grifting is.
Yeah. It really is. I think I had a response to this one earlier that was going around somewhere, maybe. Maybe not. I really thought I had a tweet about this go somewhere. Oh, no, it's mostly about the cops today. Oh, yeah. I remember meeting Tim Pool at Occupy, hanging out at other events, and seeing and it's hard to see how the person who supposedly held those beliefs ended up a right-wing grifter. Then you see the money and realize it's only about the money. Morals and ethics be damned. To which a lot of other people responded, "Did you see this at Occupy? This time he did this or this time he did that?" And I was like, no, and nobody seemed to have posted about it, so I didn't, if someone had told me, I would have definitely started having second thoughts then. The first time I really had second thoughts on good old Tim was not mine, it was my wife's. And we were at a fundraising event for Jeremy Hammond and Barrett Brown as they were both fighting, federal cases. And it was down in New York at Obey Giant. And it was a room full of activists. And people with cameras were asking, "Can I take a picture of you?" Or, "If you appear in a picture, do I need to blur your face?" and stuff like that. Because a room full of activists supporting those two at that time, right? And Tim Pool walks into the room wearing one of the press given for review pairs of Google glasses. The Google Glass. Which, of course, the press ones especially, you could not tell if they were recording, audio, video, taking pictures, none of it. And he thought that was okay. I thought it was interesting looking, and I went over to talk to him about it, but I wasn't, instantly like, "What the fuck?" And then my wife, of course, was like, "What the fuck?" And that really started kind of like, this era of her being way better at picking that out way sooner than me. But yeah, I mean, pretty quickly people turned. I mean, one of the things that came out of this was this one right here, talking about Tim Pool. He was very upset about someone letting air out of an NYPD car tire using the valve, not even a knife, at Occupy. And Hong Kong here is Unicorn Riot. I was, who the fuck is this guy upset?
Right.
And, if someone had told me that right then and there, like just walked over and said, "Hey, dude's over there like complaining that we're letting the air out of the top," I would have been like, "What the fuck, Tim?" But, it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he believes all of the stuff he says. I think it is just a grift.
I mean,
He might believe some of it at this point. Maybe it's sunk in, but I don't believe he believes all of it.
I don't think he believes all of it. Although I am pretty firmly convinced that he is just really dumb. And so maybe he is just like easily persuaded of dumb shit.
It's possible all of his new friends have convinced him of all of these things.
Yeah. But, I mean, he's just...
Ugh.
But, yeah, I don't think... I'm a little dubious that he believes all of it.
Yeah. So, that's Tim having fun today. Then I thought this was hilarious. It was Rep. Jerry Connolly and Rep. Jared Moskowitz introduced bill to change the name of the federal prison in Miami, Florida, to the Donald J. Trump Federal Corrections Institution. because the GOP had offered up a bill to change Dulles Airport to Donald J. Trump Airport, which, of course, there's no fucking way that's going to happen. But I think this is a hilarious response to that, and it should be done.
I mean, it is. I do think it's kind of funny that they wanted to rename the airport name for a Nazi sympathizer for another Nazi sympathizer. Mm-hmm. Like, there's something to that.
Yeah. It's not like protecting Dulles' name on the airport is like the correct move either. Just, there's no change when you replace Dulles with Trump. Like, it's not worth all the money it'll take to make new signs. Oh, then what do we have here? Oh, yeah. So because of the boycott against McDonald's, being in Israel and doing all the work and everything, McDonald's has had to end up acquiring, buying outright and spending a lot of money, Alonial Limited, which owns all of the McDonald's in Israel, in Gaza and everywhere, that whole region, to keep it running and deal with the boycott, thus proving, hey, some of these boycotts actually do cause some trouble. Because and as you can read here, those McDonald's run by Alonial were serving free meals to the occupying Israeli soldiers during their genocide to make sure they were strong enough to keep going and keep murdering everyone. So yeah, and fuck Kellogg's.
Indeed.
So let's talk about something that everyone's talked about already, but might as well also still talk about it a little because I think a lot of people haven't heard an angle, and they really should hear the angle told in the way that this person has told it. Okay. And this is the XZ backdoor. So there are a million articles about this. There are posts all over the place. And they start with the fact that this is a backdoor in the foundational library that is used throughout Linux, throughout many other systems. And this library is linked to from, things like SSH, which it had a backdoor for. And how did the backdoor get there? What was the methodology? All that fun stuff. So the craziest thing about this whole exploit is not that it took 2 years from the day they started playing around with it for the person who did it to become the maintainer of the project so he could introduce the backdoor. But 2 years, that's a lot. In 3 years for the backdoor to actually, be done. The craziest thing is how it was detected. Andres Freund, who works at Microsoft, is one of those people who can see 600 milliseconds on an internet connection, which is insane because the amounts of random latency when you're doing things like SSHing places and whatnot, noticing 600 milliseconds is just fucking insane. It just is. I'm sorry, but there's... I hope he's on medication for whatever version of ADHD or anything else that is currently going on there. Love him. I'm just saying, how do you see 600 milliseconds? But SSHing into one of the boxes, at work there, he was seeing this delay. And he went looking, and in Valgrind, which, will show error logs, he was seeing errors for the connection. But the connection was still going through and everything. It was just weird, right? Seeing 600 milliseconds, is fine, and maybe you reinstall a little, maybe you do something else. But, the amount of work that Andres put in over the next day and a half is absolutely insane. It becomes a CVE. I don't know if they link directly here. Yeah, in fact, here you can see the discovery from Andres. He posts to the OpenWall server or mailing list showing that there's a backdoor in XZ/liblzma, an archiving compression algorithm. And it is a crazy, crazy thing how the thing worked because This person, Gia T75, be it a person, be it a group, be it a nation state, whatever, spends years building up support for their own account on GitHub, their own ability to work on these projects, and gets given maintainer access to one of them, and then introduces a novel backdoor where the files for the backdoor actually exist in the test files for the project. And upon compiling and checking various, flags and various system things, will dump the exploit, have it included in the way it's compiled, and then it's now in, the tar file that's going out. And this tar file then gets some pressure applied. People go directly to maintainers over at Debian, over at Ubuntu, over at Red Hat, a few of the others, I think Rock Linux, and they get asked, "Hey, upgrade your XZ from 5.4 point something. I think it was 5.4.0, 5.4.5, that range, one of those versions, which was the last one that the real maintainer had, made, to this 5.60 and then 5.61 version, right?" And some of them do. It doesn't make it into stable on any of them, but it makes it into a lot of their unstable branches, their dev branches, their testing branches, some of the branches that are necessary because people need to upkeep some pretty fast-paced software, so they've got to be on the dev branch. Means you've now gotten this, which is how Andres got it. But when you look at that whole thing, 2 years of doing work, another year of maintaining the software before dumping the thing. I mean, some nation state put 3 years of effort just on the execution, let alone, what was it, a year, 2 years of work, identifying the correct one to do, building the plan, getting the people in place, writing the patches that were written as just updates. Because Gia added features to the software that was good. The library got updates, got minor fixes that made Gia look like they were actually presenting like as a real maintainer who was going to upkeep. They were going through the backlog of merge requests. This is code that other developers have submitted saying, "Hey, could you do this? It fixes this or it adds this." Say they need an extra command line feature in one of their other tools that can get passed through to this library, right? They'll submit a merge request, a PR, a pull request on GitHub. And it might get merged, it might not. There could be reasons either way. But Gia puts some out there and then starts working on accepting and dealing with the backlog of ones. Now, why is there a backlog? Why did Gia even get to do all of this? And it's really interesting because the creator, maintainer of XZ is this Lassie Collin. And they had talked openly about having some mental health issues around, this being a hobby project, as a lot of these things are. We're running into another super important, it's on every box in the world that runs any kind of Unix at this point, kind of a library, right? And all it's going out as linked to from Linux kernels through other libraries that it's then linked to, and so this is massively important. And it's one solo dev who's starting to get burned out, who's the only maintainer of the damn thing. So whoever this threat actor is identifies this as the perfect thing to do, right? Now, the backdoor itself, at first everyone thought it would just drop you in with some kind of a backdoor where, let's say, you provided the key that it wanted, and then it would, authenticate you down into a root shell or something. Your standard, backdoor that drops you to a shell. But it was very quick. It was only a couple days in that everyone had, torn it apart enough to realize that what it was actually doing is taking a smaller key, 448-bit key, that would tell it that, this was me. And then the rest of the actual key that was being sent was an RCE, remote code execution. So you didn't even have to fully log in and get down to a shell and start running shit. You could just RCE the box. You could just send a remote command that would execute as whatever the system was running the SSH daemon as. On a lot of system configurations, that would then be run with root privileges. That is terrifying. The fact that Andreas was just, sitting there one night and noticed a package that had been installed for, I think, 3 weeks, had caused a slowdown in his SSH after 600 milliseconds of slowdown, which is not something most humans see. Though I SSH into a ton of boxes that have random slowdowns because of they might be a VM, they might be, a virtual machine somewhere, and it was, cooled down. It was spun down. It needed me to try to connect before it actually brought the thing back to life out of hibernation or suspend or whatever. So like just noticing that 600 seconds and thinking that they should spend hours debugging it, like blows my mind. Just, I still don't get it.
Half a second, unacceptable.
Unacceptable. Now, maybe you are working in a space where half a second is unacceptable. There is work where remote connections, half a second ruins the whole job, right? So, absolutely.
Sure.
And maybe Andres has some of those tasks, but still, how did you see that? Holy crap. But now let's talk about what really happened here, because it's all about the mental health issues, which we all have, especially, as said in chat, thankless maintainers. These people who are doing this as a hobby, yet every major company on the planet that has Linux deployed in any way has their software on it, and it wouldn't work without it, and they aren't getting paid for this. So just thankless work. And when you start getting behind in the work, and then you start getting attacked from all angles, you can kind of decide that you're, or just not even decide, just burn out, right? So Gia shows up, and Gia starts talking in October of 2021 by sending in a patch, just innocuous. All it did was add an editor config file, which helps set up a lot of defaults for any editor you might load up that supports the format, and most editors do support that format at this point. Simple patch, no reason not to accept it. There was nothing wrong with it. And then sends in a second one. And this one just fixes an apparent reproducible build problem. Looks fine. And still to this day, looks fine. But who knows what kind of an exploit chain it might have been able to pull off. But right now they look fine. They look like they were laying the groundwork for like this person being trust, right? And then Gia sends another innocuous patch. And then this person in April of 2022, and this is, already over a year in, right? Sends the first of a few emails complaining that Giatan's patches are not landing, meaning they have not been accepted, they have not been merged into the code base, and questioning, why they haven't, been taken in and everything. And then Dennis Enns, a month later, sends another mail asking if Java is maintained. And Lassie Collin responds, apologizing for the slowness, adds that Giatan has been helping off list, so you might not have noticed it. So there's a lot more Gia interactions that we didn't know about. And he might have a bigger role in the future. The first hint that, after a year and a half, Giatan is now really trusted. It's clear that my resources are too limited, so something has to change in the long term. And a few days later, Jigar Kumar sends another email pressuring, over the 1 month, no closer to being merged, not a surprise. And so this whole campaign is them attacking Lassie's mental health issues around being this solo, thankless maintainer that's already having burnout and has already publicly stated, I'm having burnout. And that pressure leads them even farther down that hole, which, is a horrible place to be mentally. And Gia steps up to offer even more support. And so by the time we roll around into June, Lassie has merged the first commit with Giatan as the author in the Git metadata. And another one comes in from Jugar Kumar. With your current rate, I very doubt to see 5.4 released this year. And the only progress is blah, 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 just really, yelling in. Then Dennis Enns sends another one saying, I'm sorry about your mental health issues, but it's important to be aware of your own limits, da-da-da-da-da, and just attacking. And then Kumar sends another attack one. And finally, Lassie Collins says, as I have hinted at early emails, Giatan may have a bigger role in the project in the future. He has been helping a lot off list. He's practically a co-maintainer already. Giatan becomes maintainer. So over the next, couple months, Giatan has given, the maintainer abilities, the ability to take in these pull requests, to merge things, to work on and control the mailing list, all the other fun stuff. And the emails that were doing all of the pressuring, Jigar Kumar and Dennis Enns disappear at that point. Mission accomplished. Giatan has access. There's bug reports. There's all kinds of fun stuff. In the end, you see Giatan actually tagging builds themselves. You see them getting access to add pages to the homepage that Lassie Collin has been using for all of this private, personal work for years, which is on a domain that is listed here somewhere. Yeah, tukani.org. And Giatan can be reached at xz@tukani.org now. And it just suddenly starts to turn into patches getting merged to where the attack begins. And you're looking at February of this year, the hidden backdoor gets merged in. So we're talking February of this year is when the merge happens. The first outreach and everything was all the way back in October of 2021. So this campaign of pressure, of pushing Lassie Collin deeper into this mental health issue to get their insider maintainer access, and then a good year of building up, or a year and a half almost, of building up support from the community, making everyone think that they're a good maintainer, making everyone trust them as the maintainer, to the point where they could pressure Debian and pressure Red Hat and all these other groups into upgrading to a higher version and trying to get that pushed out to stable as quick as possible. All that work is done. And then the build for 5.6.0 is tagged on the 24th of February. Gentoo starts seeing crashes with 5.6.0, and they think it's some kind of a bug. And then Debian adds it to unstable, and they add, the slightly fixed versions. Another user sends a pull request to stop linking it in systemd, which would have disabled the attack. It is unclear whether any discussions happened, like off to the side or anything else for that one. And then Giatan breaks landlock detection in configure script, adding support for a subtle typo in the C program. And I don't know if people can tell here, but let's see if this can be on screen here, because I really want you all to see how devious this fix that breaks landlock, which is another piece of, the security infrastructure here. Here's the code right here, all of this. And there is one character that disables landlock. And it is this little period right here. That little period right there breaks landlock. That's insanity. That's all it took. The thing still compiles just with warnings. Everything works fine. But yeah, just years of this. It's absolute insanity. And then you look at March, and you start seeing Red Hat seeing Valgrind errors in the get CPU ID, the entry point to the backdoor. And the race to fix this before the Linux distributions dig in too deeply is done. The systemd pull request is merged to remove libelzma. Another race is on to get libelzma backdoored before the distros break the approach entirely. Then Debian adds one of the fixed versions, so the get CPU ID isn't failing anymore, to testing. Then Giatan commits 2 iFunk bug fixes, which actually fixed the bug that was causing the crashes that Red Hat was seeing, and the Gentoo one, and fixes a couple other little bugs. And then on the 8th, Gia commits a Valgrind fix that is a misdirection, but an effective one, saying, if you look at this one, where is it here? Valgrind, is showing all these errors. GTN is saying, with GCC and certain combination of flags, Valgrind will falsely trigger an invalid write. This is why all these bad things are happening. And here's a fix that just basically stops Valgrind from doing that. So people stop complaining about it. And then you get you get the updated backdoor files get committed, and they go out as build 561. And Lassie Collins sends LKML a patch set replacing his personal email with both himself and Giatan as maintainers of XZ compression in the kernel now. There is no indication that Lassie Collins was acting nefariously here. As you followed along with everything I've said here, you can tell Lassie was getting used and abused by this I do believe nation state actor. But these patches going to the Linux kernel, would have been really strong, as they say, point of leverage for the future work. It didn't look like much was going to happen there. Now this looked like future setup. And then Hans Jansen shows back up out of nowhere, filing a Debian bug to get, and this is one of the people from way earlier who was, pushing for, someone to start maintaining this, shows back up and is pushing now for 561, which fixes the Valgrind problems, and fixes an error in the backdoor code to go in. And it's just a new pressure campaign, but now it's aimed at like Debian and Ubuntu and Red Hat. And awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the gifted. Thanks, talking. And then we get to this point where Andreas discovers the bug. He privately notifies Debian and distros it, open paywall, and Red Hat assigns a CVE. Debian rolls back 561 to their version 561 plus really 545, which is great naming. Andreas posts a backdoor warning to the public list, which is this. And this is just, there is a backdoor, and here's what I figured out. This is where most of the world found out about it because, no one else had seen this yet because he had done the correct thing and talked to a few people privately. So they could maybe get versions moved out and changed out really quickly in their testing, distros. And then Red Hat announces the backdoor shipped in Fedora Rawhide and Fedora Linux 40 beta. Debian shut down builds to rebuild their build machines using Debian stable. It's just the campaign took years. And if you look at when an actual working version finally gets out and gets into systems, you're looking at late March. And also you're looking at late March for the thing to be dead. Sure, the 5.60 had like 3 weeks or so live. It was throwing enough errors and causing enough problems that it probably wasn't doing too terribly much terrible. And with it doing that, the nation state behind this, whoever it was, probably wasn't also abusing the hell out of it, only because that would expose them. So I really do think like the first starting to be live versions of it look like around 325, 328. And that's when Andreas gets it into, one of his boxes. And so live is like, holy crap, so quick to getting caught. So they wasted 3, 4, who knows how many years to get this in, and Andreas finds it. Now, I do, and this is my personal belief, after the fix to the Valgrind errors, I do think that this would have sat in the library. And the backdoor would have affected SSH for months, possibly leading to still more support and trust for this maintainer, Giatan, who already now was partial maintainer of the code that was going into the kernel for XZ, leading to them also putting backdoors into the kernel, or at least opening up more pathways for future backdoors. It is absolutely crazy that Andres found this so quick, because if he hadn't, I really do believe we have 6 months to a year, maybe even more, of this being live in the world. And it's all because this systems guy at Microsoft, I say this systems guy, in our tech circles, Andres is famous. Like, we all know, Andreas says it, it's true, right? But this dude noticed a 600 millisecond time gap there, and that slowdown, and just, holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing that kills me is the sustained pressure campaign against someone who was feeling burnout and was already having mental health issues due to the need to maintain this core piece of software on their own.
Yeah, this is a remarkably sophisticated operation.
And evil.
Oh,
Beyond
yeah.
the back door, sure, that's bad. That's every day, though, people are trying that shit.
Right.
This involved evil.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely fucked, dude. You know, yeah, so that does stand out to me too. Like when they finally started moving, I think when how to put this? I think when the first build that went out had a bug that was causing the system maintainers, the people like, at Gen2, at Red Hat, to notice problems and to want to delink it from other software. I think at that point, if you weren't in a race to get this live, you could have undone some of your patches, pulled it back, fixed everything, and waited another year before you reintroduced to the back door with fixes to all the problems you had introduced, right? Because they could have absolutely patched a bunch of stuff. I'm going to set this out there that this code was going everywhere. There would have in the end been systems by year's end at the Pentagon probably running this, let alone everywhere else, right? Every major company. So if I'm looking at the year 2024 and I'm in a mad rush to get something fixed and out now, then I'm thinking campaign, I'm thinking election, I'm thinking, it's an important year.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's where my head goes with it. That's all massive speculation. We still don't know who this is. Everyone initially says, Jia Tan, of course it's China. And then, you look at some of the character sets and they speak to maybe someone else. And then you look at an article that Ars Technica did where they track the timings of things, when Jia was active, when they looked alive, what time zone that looked to be in. And they pegged Jia as being someone or some group in Eastern Europe, somewhere around that range. Yeah, from all the time zone slip-ups, which is, that's the average slip-up, right? If you're going to catch someone in this type of a thing, it's literally the time zone slip-ups. So, yeah, let me get comfortable here. So where they are and who they are, we've got a lot of different ideas. No one knows for sure at this point. Maybe we find out. Maybe someday, but I think nation-state actor, I think Russia or China. If it's in one of the Eastern European time zones and it's not China and it is Russia, then I'm thinking it's, somewhere where they have a lot of say, a lot of control, Belarus, something like that, right? But that's all guessing at this point because we don't know. All I know is what you guys see on screen here is describing evil.
Yeah.
Like this timeline, this is the best write-up of the timeline, I think. There are a million things like this one here that have pretty little graphs and charts that show some pieces of it and make it kind of easier. They show how the exploit worked, where, it drops, the backdoor is deployed, enabling the threat actor RCE via SSH. In the tarball file, there's a macro script, which when you unpack the archive, it drops a bash script, that drops a bash script, that it extracts, and by the end, you're deployed with a backdoor, right? Like there are better, write-ups about what it is. And the obfuscation, I think someone in there even mentioned it up. Yeah, the obfuscation of the bash was utterly impossible. Like anyone who looked at that and could read it and understand what was going on, well, my hat's off to you. You're a genius. The only person I've ever known who I think might pass that muster there might actually be in chat. Yeah, utter insanity. So if anyone actually wants to look at this one, in the future, afterward, whatever, I'm going to throw that little timeline there in chat for you guys because it is. And if you ever just want to show anyone like the type of pressure campaign that can be run against one of these, thankless maintainers, right? that will get them to slip up and add a bad guy as a maintainer. Well, here's the playbook. Insanity. Whew. I wanted to go live a couple days ago about this one. Things came up, and then I was going to talk about it earlier when I was doing the programming stuff. And of course, then, my microphone would have been like 5 feet from a leaf blower. Like it just ain't happening. I've got good noise cancellation, but not that good. The nonsense. Utter insanity here. Do you actually have the script easily showable here? Has anyone just linked right to the thing? Oh yeah, all the symbol mapping stuff here. The backdoor in it here, it's crazy. This whole thing was insane, dude. Every bit of this was nuts. The GD logs that people have shown how it all actually works. Utter insanity. If you want to go through, oh yeah, it's by the same there. The actual cell script, yeah. It's insanity. I looked at this a couple days ago, and I just had no clue what they were trying to get at here. Like, what the fuck, dude? But anyways, yeah. I do have that mic. You just didn't hear how loud it was. Like, it was echoing in this room. I need some more sound dampening in the room because I do have a point mic, and then also the Rode is doing a good job of ducking. So I've got, and I've got loud noise cancellation and all that. I still think it would have come through. But we'll do a little programming one in a day or two, maybe Monday, just kind of depending on how the days go over the weekend. There's a lot of stuff in being out at events and some canvassing for a friend's campaign and all that going on over the weekend. As for what I want to do with the programming, I explained the idea of building a thing that would ingest all the news I want to read through and help me dig through it all. I want to do just the very initial steps of building out a web interface that will at least, give me the logins and all that, getting the server built, the domain pointed at it, getting it able to deploy straight from, I push with Git, and, 5 minutes later, my server has been redeployed. Getting all of that type stuff set up, not getting any of the super complicated LLM stuff where I'm making my own LLM yet. That'll be in one of the future ones. But yeah. Oh yeah, no, this thing does significant. I wouldn't have been able to hear myself talk either. So I'm just saying, it was that. Yeah. So I don't have anything else on my plate. One thing I will, a little preview, is this little environment here is the programming environment. Because I don't like dirtying up a Windows machine with dev tools, because when you install all this type shit on a Windows machine, you get files in 50 locations, you get entries in all kinds of system places. I don't want that. I don't like trying to clean that up from a Windows install. And the only reason I'm on Windows is because streaming is just so much easier on Windows than it is on other systems right now. Otherwise, I would be doing this on a Mac or on Linux. But then I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all the way, and I'm going to actually dev on Windows, right? But I don't want to dirty up my Windows, so I'm using Hyper-V, and I built out another Windows install in a development environment here, and then I installed all the tools in this. So this is going to be the development environment. You can see I've got good old Laravel herd running, which has Nginx, a mail capture, a dump capture, PHP, MySQL, Redis, and PHP debugging all built in. And I can just stop all this and delete the herd directory, and all these services are gone from my system. So nothing is anywhere else but inside of herd, which is just amazing. So we'll be playing with that and building out a system. It'll be using Laravel, Filament, Nginx, MySQL, a pretty standard kind of stack. Other than that, let's move on to some of the more fun stuff from the last week and a half or so since we last did stuff. What do you have for us, Mac?
All right, so let's see.
Is this the right one? No, that's the one we're on. That's your screen. Haha.
There we go.
I need to rename that button. I really cannot read that in the small text it is. So, yeah, what do you got for us, Mac?
All right, so the first
You
one...
start. I'm getting water.
Yeah, was there was a weird thing recently where Karl Rove was interviewed on MSNBC and started talking shit about Donald Trump for defending the January 6th rioters. And saying that, quote, and what those people did when they violently attacked the Capitol in order to stop a constitutionally mandated meeting of the Congress to accept the results of the Electoral College is a stain on our history. And every one of those sons of bitches who did that, we ought to find them, try them, and send them to jail. And, a bunch of stuff in that vein. And it's just a very weird experience because, we both remember...
Oh, I'm old enough to remember all this stuff.
Yeah, even 15 years ago, he was on the far right of the Republican Party. He was the guy that you expected to be part of one of these riots to try and overthrow the government to install a dictator.
I've got an opinion on this one, and I don't know if anyone's going to agree with me.
Okay.
But Karl Rove got really good at enacting his will through the system.
That is true.
At utilizing the mechanics of everything, at putting the right people in the right places of power that could manipulate, but through the system. He never looked like the type of guy who was throw out the Constitution, throw out these different rules in Congress, and I need my own person leading. He was more the guy who had figured out how to use all of those tools. And he wants them to remain because he knows how to use them. And he's mad at these fools for just trying to tear it all down. He thinks the system works.
I mean, he certainly wasn't above, working hand in glove with Roger Stone, who was absolutely trying to tear it down.
Not at all. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not like he was unaware of what Roger Stone was doing.
No, I'm just saying. I think that's where
I guess I can see
where the difference is in my mind.
Yeah, that wasn't necessarily the approach that
they were trying to take away the tools he's learned to abuse for so long.
Right. Yeah. No, I guess that makes sense. It's very weird to be people that would claim to be moderate Republicans today probably also claim to be moderate Republicans in 2000, 2008. And he was way to their right at the time. And now he's the voice of reason. It's very strange.
I don't know. That might be the sign of the end times. Karl Rove
right?
is a voice of reason.
I mean, obviously, I'm not going to say voice of reason in general, but at least on the issue of, whether there should be a fascist dictatorship in the United States.
Yeah.
Did not expect to end up on the same side of that argument as him. And then, of course, we had a whole bunch of things happen in regards to Donald Trump's bond for the civil fraud trial. And, there were some ups and downs, but some of them were really interesting. Of course, it got reduced to $175 million, and then the bond that he had to pay in order to delay enforcement of the judgment was reduced to $175 million.
Yep.
And then there was some reporting that he tried to get there was a bunch of effort by some of his billionaire backers to see if they could get together the money to make the bond. And well, as we end up happening, that didn't happen. So it's interesting they tried to arrange it and there was that just doesn't seem like a good enough investment. But then he got one through Knight Specialty Insurance, which is run by a billionaire, Don Hankey, who we then found out that Don Hankey, first of all, we found out that Knight Specialty Insurance and its parent company, the Knight Insurance Group, are known for dealing with like high risk, high interest loans.
Yep.
Which made it, very funny and appropriate that was who Donald Trump was able to find. But then we also found out that like Hankey, known as the king of subprime car loans, was sued by the Justice Department 9 months into Trump's presidency because one of his other companies had illegally repossessed 70 cars belonging to service members, violating the Service Members Civil Relief Act. They settled the lawsuit with the administration in just 10 days, which, how bad did it have to be that the Trump administration was suing them? And like, they were immediately like, nope, we were wrong. But they were also hit by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau for illegal debt collection tactics. That resulted in a $44 million in restitution payout. Just like, it turns out this guy is this utter scumbag. His entire career is like scummy loans and like high interest shit. Which, makes it doubly appropriate that he would be the one dealing with Donald Trump. And giving Donald Trump a lifeline. But then it got even better because it turned out on Thursday that it's unclear whether the bond that was posted is actually legitimate at all. Because first of all, it turns out that Knight Specialty Insurance Company doesn't have a certificate of qualification, which basically is required under New York law. State regulators have these standards to make sure that the insurers actually can, pay the things that they're insuring. And they didn't have this, and then they didn't file to the initial paperwork showing that they actually had the money separately. And then on top of that, like the bond filing didn't have the signatures showing that like they had power of attorney or they had the ability to like legally represent Donald Trump. So currently, like every part of the legitimacy of the bond appears to be in doubt.
So like every business that possibly works with him in any way or person that works with him in any way, it's all just a fraud?
Yeah, and like it's not just a fraud, it's a fraud at like every level. Like they didn't demonstrate they had the money. They weren't actually licensed to operate in the state of New York. They didn't do the paperwork correctly, and parts of that involved not proving that they were actually like legally allowed to be representing Donald Trump. It's just like this incredible like clown show.
Yeah, I mean in chat, yeah, I think it is just as bad as the bond from the Russian oligarch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And on related notes there, and speaking of Russian oligarchs, we had the revelation that in 2022, when Trump Media was out of money, they got loaned a bunch of emergency loans, and they were kind of concealed their source, but it turns out it came from ultimately an ES Family Trust, which opened an account with Paxum Bank, which is registered in Dominica. And then leaked documents showed the ES Family Trust was in fact run by or belonged to Anton Postolnikov, who co-owns Paxum Bank, and is also the subject of a long-running criminal investigation by the FBI and DHS. And it also turns out that like it's unclear whether Paxum Bank was even like allowed to provide the loan. So like just again shady at every level.
At every level.
And of course, Pistolnikov is tied to Putin because of course he
You
is.
can't be a Russian oligarch without it.
No, billionaire Russian oligarch, absolutely.
You don't live long if you
No.
aren't, yeah.
So that was, and then speaking of Truth Social, we also have the currently ongoing lawsuits back and forth between the founders of the digital world acquisition company, Andy Latensky and Wes Moss, and Donald Trump, who are currently like suing each other over the fact that apparently Donald Trump is trying to screw them out of like getting anything out of it. Which, they set up this whole company just to give Donald Trump money, basically. That's the whole purpose. It's not like a legitimate business venture or anything. Yeah, they were going to take a cut, but like, it's not like a serious business. It's basically just a way of laundering money to give to Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
And then Donald Trump is such a piece of shit that these guys did this for him, and he's suing them to prevent them from taking a cut.
Yeah, basically they have $600 million. Well, they had $600 million worth of it when before it crashed.
I don't want to talk about what the current value is because like anything you say is probably already obsolete. It's current when this article loaded, it was 40.59, which means it was down like 10 to 15% from what the IPO was.
12.05%. That's how far down it is.
Yeah. Is that from its initial, or is that just like over the week?
At close today from its high.
Yeah. But even what was the initial offering was what, like $49.95 or something, $47.95, something like that. So it's still down like 15+% from its initial price. And I'm sure it will continue from there. It is not going to. There's not like it's a legitimate value at all.
Yeah, the highest it hit looks like 79.38.
That sounds right. Yeah. And by all rights, it should be a penny stock, and I expect it will make it there at some point.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They burned through $58 million in a year where they brought in like $5 million in revenue. It's just.
Yeah, the people who have shorted this one, unlike the people who shorted GameStop, these ones are going to lose, are going to win.
Yeah. Because the
GameStop is
interesting.
lost
I was
billions.
reading a thing about this. Apparently, basically the way it's due to the way the shares on the market are, it's actually extremely expensive to short this in the first place. And that's what's actually preventing people from buying shorts at this point. Like some people got in early before this kind of settled into this, but now it's like it would like having a short position for I think it was like was going to cost like something like each share was going to cost like 20,000 over the course of a year, or 28,000 over the course of a year or something. So you have to like, even if it had dropped by like 75%, it would still be, you'd still take a loss. But yeah, it's definitely worth betting against as far as you can. It's just really hard to short currently. Very expensive, but yeah,
I mean, I don't really like short sellers anyways, but like still, I just think it's funny if this is the one that they make all their money on.
Yes.
Because then they can just go try and short GME or AMD again and, lose. Or AMC.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we had just like a bunch of kind of not exactly related, but like there's a theme of different stories that like, so first of all, Ken Paxton has been under indictment. The Republican Attorney General of Texas has been under indictment for securities fraud for the past 9 years.
Yep.
and managed to just keep delaying it. He 9 years under indictment, and continued to be the Attorney General of Texas. Didn't go to get stuck in jail. There was not actually hearings from basically at all. And now finally he has made a plea deal where he is paying $300,000 in restitution and completes 100 hours of community service and 15 hours of legal ethics education. And that's it. It's insane that this, fraudster was able to evade justice for 9 years and then effectively just get away with it.
Yeah. Ooh.
But then he's not the only one we heard about. We also heard that the vice chairman of the Georgia Republican Party spent I think it was a 10-year period or something, where he was under had been convicted of a felony check forgery sentence, and continued to just vote illegally. He voted in 9 different elections. He's also a conservative talk show host, of course.
Wait, you're telling me there was actual voter fraud? Oh my God.
And it was by a Republican. And what happened? $5,000 fine and a public reprimand.
Wow. That's going to stop him.
Yeah. It's weird how someone in Texas who's a minority is told by their parole off or their probation officer that you can go vote, and then when they file a provisional ballot they end up getting sent to jail for years before their appeal finally gets them out. But then Republicans do it and they just get a fine and a reprimand. It's weird, huh?
Yeah. I mean, sure, totally makes complete sense to me.
And then another story, and this one's a little more relevant for those of us here in Massachusetts, even though it doesn't actually involve a campaign in Massachusetts, because it's about Bernie Moreno, who is running for U.S. Senate in Ohio as a Republican. And he's related to Massachusetts because he is originally from Massachusetts, or he came from Massachusetts a while back. And he owns car dealerships. Mm-hmm. And you may have heard of him before because he apparently screwed his early business partner, who was the salesman, out of a bunch of money, out of a share in the car dealerships, basically.
Yep.
But it also turns out more recently that people noticed that he claimed in a 2020 interview that he was someone who moved to this country a long time ago to escape what happens in most South American countries, which is socialism and the absolute prison of those ideas. And more recently, he said he came to the U.S. as a child with his mother and siblings to flee socialism in their native Colombia, and that he believes the same ideas rising in the United States. But as people noted, Colombia was 9 years into the 16-year period of being run by the National Front, which was a conservative, there was a conservative party and there's a liberal party and they'd alternate power. There wasn't socialist party there. There was Marxist insurgencies, but they weren't the government at all. Rather the opposite. The government were the ones fighting against them. So just, it's amazing how comprehensively full of shit this guy is. And speaking of which, another person running for office as a Republican is in Arizona in Yavapai County. He's running for the county attorney on the basis of things like, quote, young white inmates from Yavapai County are often targeted for physical and emotional abuse and return to our communities damaged and scarred for life, end quote. Which is the only race or ethnic group mentioned on his website. But he talks a lot about immigrants and illegal immigration.
Oh, of course.
And, it turns out that he has a lot of the dog whistles as well. But he also has a history of racist comments and had to previously resign. And, he was once charged with having sex multiple times with 2 underage boys, including one who was intellectually disabled.
Sounds like a Republican.
Yeah. So, It's amazing. All these stories just in, the last week. Republicans all across the country. And quite the... there's just these themes that you see. It's kind of... it's kind of crazy that anyone takes them seriously.
Well, I post 2 or 3 times a day on various social media the list of the 1,250 plus Republicans and Christians who have done everything from child trafficking to molesting, and they are for the most part Republican officials, cops, or they somehow work at a church. And every day, 3 or 4 more are ready to get added.
Yep.
And it's they're not drag queens. None of them, turns out.
I mean, you'll find the occasional one that's like a drag queen or like a transgender person that gets arrested for something terrible. But man, it certainly isn't out of proportion to their share of the population. Unlike
no, no.
But another one that's a little more relevant to us locally. I don't know this guy's politics exactly, although I have some suspicions. But a former city councilor from Holyoke, Massachusetts, Wilmer Puello-Mota, who was also a member of the Massachusetts National Guard, and was wanted for, child pornography charges in the U.S., and then was scheduled to face trial back in January, fled the country, and now appears to have ended up in Russia and has joined the Russian military and is fighting in Ukraine.
Well, that's lots of twists.
Yeah, right?
Okay. Local politics to the front lines in Ukraine. That's a path.
I don't expect this to end well for him, but, I hope it doesn't. Yeah, I hope it ends very poorly for him. But it's just very interesting that, this guy ends up with the Russian military. This is the sort of person they see as a fitting recruit. And actually, I believe that they were actually using him in some of their propaganda.
I mean, they also took just a bunch of murderers out of prison and put them in the front line too.
Yeah.
Fitting recruit for them is anyone who can hold one of their rotting guns.
Indeed. But, they're there to, what's the current excuse? Are they fighting Nazis or protecting ethnic Russians or defending against, NATO aggression?
Expansionism, yeah.
I forget which of their excuses they've currently cycled back to, but this is who they think is suited to that task. Clearly,
how wrong they are.
Whew. And then, another fun one was that Elon Musk was filing lawsuits against people for pointing out that Twitter was allowing hate speech all over the place and, putting advertisements next to it and all that.
Yeah, the free speech absolutist was trying to stifle free speech.
Yes. And the courts clearly found that was also the case. Clearly we're like, yep, nope, that was definitely the case. And what was the actual... Yeah. The U.S. District Court Judge Charles Breyer dismissed the suit, writing in his order that it was, quote, unabashedly and vociferously about one thing, end quote, punishing the nonprofit for its speech. Which, it's nice that the courts are able to recognize that, these rich jackasses that lie all the time are really not the free speech warriors they're pretending to be, and just outright only pro certain types of speech and absolutely want to censor the types they don't like.
Oh yeah, totally. I've got a fun one from Elon now.
Sure.
Let's switch to not that one. How about that one? There we go. All right. I believe this is it. What does chat notice about the old Tesla robo-taxi unveil?
Oh, that it's on 8/8, huh?
8/8.
Is he unveiling 14 of them?
So, to me, this looks obvious. Hannah says, Jesus Christ, not everything is some super secret Hitler reference. Considering that he changed the terms of service to protect some pro-Nazi cartoonist, I think if Elon wanted to tweet Heil Hitler, he would just do it.
No,
I don't think he would.
No, he likes to have that, like, I won't call it plausible deniability, but like that fig leaf, where he doesn't quite come right out and say it.
Yeah.
And he likes to be able to, oh, I didn't say that. I didn't support that thing I retweeted and said, this is the absolute truth.
Yeah. Well, that's him.
And, we have obviously talked about this several times, but anyone that like hasn't really gotten the full picture of that, I would highly suggest some more news just came out a couple days ago with a new one about Elon Musk's Hitler problem. I would highly recommend it. It does a good job. I mean, there's some parts that it omits. It doesn't really cover like the connections to his grandfather and Technocracy Incorporated. There's some bits but that it leaves out, but it does go through a lot of the things he said and how he keeps saying the same things that the Nazis say.
That's right here.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of that is stuff I have also talked about many times. But they did a good job and used a lot of the same. Like if I had been doing a video that was like a long form, like talking about the ideology of the Nazis and how we knew, like they rely on a lot of the sources I would. I know I saw stuff from Umberto Eco's Fascism. They talk about Robert Paxton's The Anatomy of Fascism. I think I saw some stuff from How Fascism Works, although they didn't name drop it. They talked about, Shirey's The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. So, yeah, it's well sourced. Not 100% comprehensive, but quite good. I was very entertained, and it does a good job of covering it. So I would highly recommend that for anyone that needs that laid out, and also how a lot of these talking points, like, do relate back to just Nazis all the time. And yeah, that it is when you see all the pieces like put together, you're like, wow, it's not, how does he try and pretend? It's not subtle.
Well, after watching it, I was surprised that the first 4 cars that they put out there for Tesla, since he did the SEX, weren't WEIMAR. Just because, just at this point, to me, it's blatantly obvious. Then the other fun one is good old system purge of bots and trolls underway. Bots, yeah, great, got it. You're doing a horrible job of it. As for the new purge of trolls, I'm wondering what the definition of trolls is. I would love to see some write-up, some document that explains what they think a troll is. What have the two moderators left on staff been told is their guidance on trolls? That would be super important, I think.
Well, you see, anyone that Cat Turd DMs him as a problem gets banned as a troll.
Yeah. Whew. As people can tell in chat, I'm starting to get very tired. I think I am getting close to the end here. How about you, Mac?
Yeah, sure. I have a couple more stories, but...
if you want to switch back over there, we can totally do that.
I mean...
I just got to do the... Haha, I got it first time.
So...
There we go.
I thought this one was very funny. So Israel has a intelligence unit called Unit 8200, which is one of their like top secret intelligence. Like it's not public knowledge who is even like part of it.
Well, it is now.
Well, yeah, correction. It wasn't not public knowledge, but
what a mistake to make too.
Oh, I know. He published a book on Amazon, which was linked to a Google account created in his name with links to the account's maps and calendar profiles, which allowed them to identify the longtime leader of this organization. And just, you would think like the head of an intelligence agency wouldn't make this kind of
using exact tooling and OPSEC techniques that he would have used himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, holy crap.
It's just very funny to me. And I guess, it shows that like even these people in these senior positions make these just dumb mistakes. And then of course we have the in Israel and Gaza, we had the strike on the World Central Kitchen aid, not exactly convoy at that point.
No, they were in different locations.
Yeah, they were like a couple kilometers apart. Like they were spread out over like 3 kilometers, and
that
then
was
all
a directed
of them were
attack
precision strikes
on purpose.
And these vehicles all had their name and logo like on the roof where it was hit, which, like literally they hit the logo of the vehicle.
Yeah.
And so Israel, of course, said a series of grave errors were made and like blah, blah, blah. But
no, it was direct, it was targeted, and it was on purpose.
Yeah. And I mean, when you look, the road that this happened on was like part of it was a road that was specifically identified as accessible road for humanitarian aid. They were in contact with the Israeli Defense Force. Like they had arranged the whole thing. They had been told they were going to be in like cars instead of like large trucks. They had just dropped off of like 100 tons of aid. And Israel's like, mistakes were made and we're firing a couple of people.
Uh-huh.
But it's very interesting that, what Israel said was that, where was the quote that they were saying that like They didn't follow standard the strike on the aid vehicles is a grave mistake stemming from a serious failure due to a mistaken identification, errors in decision making, and attack contrary to the standard operating procedures. So, like, why are they only getting fired if that's your excuse?
Yeah, that all sounds like chargeable offenses.
Yeah, like, oh, so you didn't follow your rules of engagement, you didn't follow your orders, and you killed civilians. That sounds like, at best, negligent homicide. Like, if not, just outright, like, second-degree homicide. If not, first-degree homicide, because it sure sounds like it's premeditated to me.
You can see in chat that the commander, the reasoning was if they've already delivered food, they are no longer under humanitarian protection.
Yeah.
Everything I want to say here will get me banned from Twitch. So there we are.
I just want to point out, this article had some interesting, like, a few interesting comments. First, the founder of WCK, Jose Andres, responded to the IDF's inquiry findings by saying, quote, "The IDF cannot credibly investigate its own failure in Gaza. It's not enough to simply try to avoid further humanitarian deaths, which have now approached close to 200. All civilians need to be protected, and all innocent people in Gaza need to be fed and safe, and all hostages must be released," end quote. And then, the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, said that, noted that 196 humanitarian workers had been killed during this campaign, and, quote, "We want to know why," end quote. And then another one was Scott Paul of Oxfam saying, quote, "Let's be very clear. This is tragic, but it is not an anomaly. The killing of aid workers in Gaza has been systemic," end quote. Like, notice all the aid organizations are very clear on what's going on here.
Yeah.
They are not under the idea that this is some sort of accident or mistake. They're like, no, they are actively killing aid workers.
Yeah.
And, I guess it's nice that Joe Biden apparently finally threatened to, maybe stop providing support in the future if they don't change. But, like, that was where he should have been months ago.
Yeah.
I'm glad that, like, he has finally made some progress and apparently, like, did outright, like, yell at them and threaten aid to cut off military aid. But seems like maybe at this point we should be at the point of not giving them offensive weapons and, just telling them outright, like, yeah, sorry, there's a lot of demand for U.S. weapons right now. As long as you continue to act like this, I don't know when we're going to be able to get any to you. There's just so many other places they need to go. Which is very much a thing the U.S. has done in the past to gain leverage against other countries, including Israel. They've done the delaying stuff for political reasons, but
Right.
Not specifically cutting off all to get them to comply with international law, and U.S. law for that matter. But yeah, no, it's nice that he's finally doing, like, taking a step, even if it's
The
way
bare
too
minimum.
late. But I guess we'll see what kind of follow through there is. I mean, I guess a lot of it is that I suppose there really is a lot of effort that they're focusing on trying to prevent the ground invasion of Rafah, because that would be a even worse humanitarian catastrophe than what we've already seen. So I can understand them, like, wanting to apply most of their leverage to prevent that. But I don't think they've really it feels like they haven't really thought this through. Like they didn't think, hey, if we're still providing them weapons, are we the baddies?
Yeah.
But I guess he's maybe slowly getting there. Would be nice.
I don't think he's going to get far enough onto what I would call our side of this fight.
I mean, he has definitely been much slower than I would like, but the tone shift of Joe Biden over the last month compared to Joe Biden on Israel for the past 30 years of his career has been a very dramatic tone shift.
Yeah, definitely.
So, that has happened at a shockingly fast pace, given that, he was that guy for 30 years.
Yep.
So I don't know, maybe he ends up eventually. It'll be definitely far too late.
After 50,000 are dead.
Yeah. But, I want to give what credit is due. He has made some progress towards maybe he'll make it there eventually. It's just very depressing.
Too late.
Yeah. Very depressing that he isn't already long since there. But
Yep. Too late. Whew.
But yeah, I think that covers all the ones I really wanted to cover.
All the fun stuff. Yeah. Totally fun stuff.
Fun.
Indeed. All right, chat. It has been a minute. We are going to do that one because somehow his screen went to the infinite thing. However that was done, who knows?
I closed another tab and accidentally left the Twitch tab open.
Fair enough. All right. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm fading. I am done for the night. I'm going to try. I don't know if it's tomorrow. I don't know if it's Sunday to fit in an hour-long stream or so doing that initial programming run, getting some things going. You guys will get to see me literally from scratch start a Laravel project, get the initial database built, get Filament installed, which is like an admin panel builder that makes it really easy to make your backends and handle logins and all that type of stuff. Get the server launched, get the domain pointed at it, get reproducible, simple, get push-based deployment. Nothing strong or hard in the CI pipeline yet, just, the basics. And I think that's going to be the first one. I'm going to try and play some games a little tomorrow. We'll see. Again, there's a lot of political stuff happening this weekend, and so I'm going to see when it'll fit in, so I'm not going to be able to give any time, like when it might be. We'll have to see when I end up at home and whatnot. But that is that, chat. This was fun, and we still got almost 2 hours in there, 150, right? Mm-hmm. Not bad.
Yeah.
Yes, no hot girl tonight, looks like. But definitely sometime over the weekend, maybe. All right, everyone. Good night.